Hey, if you have not gotten a check-in back from me, or if I had to push your call this week, I'm so sorry. I am behind. I always try to use positive messaging. There's no way around it. I'm a little bit behind this week. I didn't get as much to prove time with the guard this week as was expected. So I'll get them all up by the end of today.
Your military haircut explains everything.
I was chippering wood all day this morning, setting up tents, chippering wood. So I've got a sweaty military haircut and a mustache. So
Yeah.
Okay, y'all cut me off anytime if you've got any questions, if you got any comments. But today we're kind of going to talk about calorie bombs, how to enjoy, avoid, and account for the ridiculously indulgent foods of our modern world. The bottom line is, everybody knows we got a obesity problem, like nationwide. It's not an individual problem. It really is. Usually I'm an individual solutions guy, but it's so widespread. The reality is we've never had access to this much food. And the food that we eat, the composition of the food that we eat is just so different from all the food that humans have eaten, in the past. And so whether you are middle-aged trying to lose weight, or even if, you're me, we all have to kind of figure out where we stand on these calorie bombs and how to navigate them. So does everybody know what I said? Like when I say calorie bombs, I pretty much just mean like American food. Y'all know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right now, currently, literally right across the street, my unit is doing a burger burn. And it's hot dogs, American cheese, chili, hamburgers, bread, like all that kind of stuff. And that falls into this category. Pretty much if you're looking at American food, I don't care if it's Taco Bell or if it's Keffy's. Anybody know where Keffy is downtown Knoxville?
Oh, yeah.
Amazing food, right?
Yeah.
Probably the best restaurant in Knoxville right now. It all pretty much has the same composition. And the reality is it's so much more calorically dense than any food humans have ever eaten in the past. So a quick breakdown of your nutrition and your macronutrients. Again, y'all have all seen this graph before, right? This is not new. Cindy Lou, you recognize this graph, right?
Yes.
All right. So protein. So we measure on all your food labels. Food is measured in grams. And you take like a protein bar, maybe it weighs 100 grams. That breaks down into water and the macronutrients. So per gram, protein and carbs have 4 calories. Fat has 9 calories and alcohol has 7 calories. So you don't really even need to remember 4, 4, and 9. All you need to remember is fat is twice as calorically dense as protein and carbs. You can do the same thing with alcohol. Okay, does everybody get that?
Right.
One of the reasons why historically I had clients probably cut carbs more regularly, 2 reasons for that. One, I used to work with more type 2 diabetics than I work with now. Secondly, it actually turns out if you can cut fats a little bit, you can cut your calories substantially when it comes to weight loss. Now, not everybody's goal is weight loss forever. Not everybody's goal is even weight loss. But if you can, like personally, I love fats. Fats are really delicious, but it's actually really easy for me to like half the amount of mayonnaise, I'm using on a sandwich or something. And so just by being a little bit more discriminating with your fats, you can actually really start to make a substantial difference. So fat is like an easy thing that and primarily today, I'll talk about how you can kind of adjust your dietary fats. Now, there are going to be some people that don't eat enough fats, but most people are getting plenty of fats. Okay, questions on the macronutrients in your calories? Love it. Okay, let's get into it. I've shown all these slides before. I just copied and pasted these for a little bit, but the typical American diet composition, we're eating about 10 to 12% of our food from protein. Everything else is fats and carbs. Depending on who you ask, there could be a different, I don't think it matters that much, like what percentage of this is fat or carbs. If you ate the same amount of calories with more fat or the same amount of calories with more carbs, it's probably not going to make that big of a difference. But it doesn't matter if you're eating at a restaurant, you're doing the burger burn with my unit down there, you're getting French fries, you're getting tacos, you're getting nachos. Pretty much all of that has this breakdown. Does that make sense? Like that's a really crucial thing to kind of understand. Did we get that?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you are eating out, if you're at potluck, you're eating that crack dip that they bring to Super Bowl parties, it's going to have this breakdown. The only thing is sometimes protein will go lower, but it is pretty much this. I have almost all my clients, their first starting point is to increase the protein composition of their diet. Protein's a lot less likely to be stored as fat. Instead, it breaks down into lean mass. Okay, so just to drive this point home, I have really, y'all know me, I have a background as being a cook. Like I consider myself like sort of adjacent to the culinary world. I watch all the food documentaries, I watch Chef's Table. I have a bucket list to go to all the nice restaurants. I just got to make a lot more money first. And recently there's been a big boom in food videos and food tutorials. Has anybody noticed on their social media, like Facebook or something, a lot more food videos?
Mhm.
It's literally been, obviously just with the internet coming in, but in the last couple of months, there's a new format on each social media that's actually, it's a mimic of TikTok. But there's a ton of content.
That's because they're targeting you with that now, Andrew. They know what you like.
No, well, that is true. It is true that the algorithm is getting me, but the algorithm is getting everybody. So the new joke is that Instagram and Facebook are now TikTok for college students, is Instagram, and then TikTok for old people, which is Facebook. So sorry, that's not me. That's not me. You know, that's just the way they say. But one thing I did not really realize as a cook, when I was just a cook, when I was a nutrition coach. Hey, Carol, welcome in. When I was a cook, I wasn't thinking about the composition of food. You know, I knew that the kids I was cooking for needed more vegetables. I gave them good quality fats. I tried to get more protein in. But one of the things that I didn't really realize is fat is so delicious. If you look, this guy, his name is he's very, very, very famous. As a nutrition, I've been looking at my cook life through the lens of the nutrition coach. And it really is amazing just how much fat they are cramming into your like restaurant meals. So I'm going to share my screen again here once I can get out of this. And I just wanted to show y'all, because when you start to see it, you won't be able to unsee it. And so I hope this is like kind of a helpful like thing to share. So this guy, he's a really, really good chef. And as a chef, I've learned that anybody know what you finish every sauce with in the culinary world? What do you finish every sauce with?
Parsley.
Parsley. Okay, what goes in before the parsley? Anybody heard of Monte au beurre?
Wine?
Wine goes in a lot of times. Usually that'll simmer out. What does Monte au beurre mean?
Don't know.
Mountain of cheese?
Mount with butter. The last step in every sauce is you cube butter and you just kind of throw it in there. So that's,
Oh, yum. I like that.
yeah. Oh yeah. Don also says restaurants also pack it in with salt. Salt is, it's not necessarily true that salt causes high blood pressure, even though there are some people, about 2% of people will have huge blood pressure spikes due to their salt. But if you're not one of those people, you don't. But salt will cause you to hold water. And, you know, if you're not used to eating that much salt, you go eat at a restaurant for 3 days in a row because you're on a trip, you come back Monday and you feel terrible. But let me just show y'all like this one video. I don't think the sound is going to play. This is like a sandwich that he's making. Can y'all see this? Do I need to zoom in? This might be a fail. It's okay if it's a fail, but can y'all see this?
Well, there's like 6 oh, okay. Yep.
How about now?
Yep.
Okay, you can see him making the sandwich, right? You can see it, right, Cindy?
Yes.
Okay, great. So he's making a ground beef patty, which is like 80%, 80-20. He's putting eggs on it. He's putting a bunch of mayo in the slaw. He's putting butter on the toast. Can y'all still hear me? My internet's kind of cutting in and out.
Better.
Okay. He's putting a Canadian bacon with American cheese on it. And I guarantee the sandwich is delicious. Look, a bunch of mayo, a bunch of butter and onions. Okay, do y'all see that?
Yep.
Okay, that's a sort of an extreme example, but most of the foods you're eating at a restaurant really do have a very similar composition. So my point is, just like me personally, as I look at my chef life as a nutrition coach, it really just kind of illuminates like, wow, we really are able to eat substantially out of your normal eating life, just when you're eating something that's extremely decadent or when you're kind of eating in a restaurant. On the left, this is a restaurant I ate at recently. My wife and I went to Bowling Green to see some of her family. And it was a restaurant I actually wanted to go to for a really long time. It was actually like a pretty good option. There's a lot of pasta, but the salmon on top of it was pretty good. There's a lot of butter and olive oil in that pasta. So it's a very high calorie meal. But that was a pretty good option being at that restaurant. So even just doing some small things, you can kind of just make small adjustments to minimize the fallout of those super decadent meals. So here's the point. Here's why I want you to see this. Is I do want you to realize how out of the ordinary and how extraordinary some of the food that we're eating is. Like, is it helpful to just see and kind of realize actually how indulgent that food is? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to just say, well, I'm just eating what everybody else is eating. But really, like, I wanted to help put it in perspective that, like, it's very, very, and it is very indulgent. And it's not to say it's a bad thing. Like, I enjoy these foods occasionally. But I just want you to realize how out of the norm these foods are. If you're not proactive, you're going to just fall into them frequently. You're going to have a hard time. You're just going to kind of do it normally because everybody else just does it. And so if you're not proactive, it's gonna be an issue. You can enjoy them occasionally though, as long as you're proactive. Small adjustments can minimize the absurdity of the indulgence. Like, you can make a really delicious sandwich with a little bit less mayo, a little bit less butter. Eat fewer chips on the side. You'll be okay. And then I do think just understanding the composition of these foods can be a motivator to seek them less. So as I understand more on the nutrition side, I cook a little bit differently. And you can still cook a delicious sauce without as much sugar or butter. Most of the time in baking or in any kind of like sweet recipe, I just do a quarter of the sugar and it still tastes plenty of sweet. It's plenty sweet and it still tastes really delicious. Okay, most people know food is really crappy, or they know when a food is crappy. But what I want to help you do is just real quick, this is going to take about 3 minutes. I want you to understand why it's crappy and be able to identify it. The reason why I'm doing this training this week is I've just had several people asking me like, hey, like, I've been eating some food and I don't know how much of it, I don't know what I'm eating and I don't feel good about it. And I feel bad after I finish. So I want to try to answer that question directly. So can everybody see the food labels, or at least in the bottom left corner where it says the fats, carbs, and protein?
Yes.
Okay, I went to Aldi and I just went and I took a picture of a lot of the kind of crap foods, crappy foods. And I want to, everybody knows that it is crappy, but I want to explain and help you understand what makes this food so sort of uniquely unhealthful. Part of it is it's got a bunch of seed oils in it. So those are inflammatory. A lot of times it's got other kind of chemicals and ingredients and additives that aren't healthy. But really the main reason is because you're getting something that we talked about. The typical American food diet distribution is about 10% protein. The main reason is these foods are usually less than 5% protein, and they've got an extraordinarily dense amount of fats and or carbs. Usually the carbs, the densest carb. What's the densest carb that there is? That if you put 100 grams on a scale, you would get it's 100 grams of carbs. What's the densest?
Sugar.
Yeah,
Sugar.
sugar's the densest carb. In general, very dense foods, natural whole foods, rice is not that dense in calories. It's got a lot of water in it. It's got a lot of fiber in it, and then it's got carbs. But the more processed the food is, the more dense it is from a calorie standpoint, and less dense it is in nutrition.
Can I interject a question on the sugar
Go for it.
point?
Mhm.
What about monk fruit sugar?
Yeah. Monk
or
fruit's
sweetener?
Yeah, I actually think it's pretty much totally fine. It's definitely better than real sugar. So if you have to choose between monk fruit and sugar, just do the monk fruit.
Okay.
Now, let me share this. For athletes actually need sugar. So there's a little bit of a, like, sugar actually does have performance benefits for some populations. So I will drink a sugary Gatorade when it's really hot like this, and I've been working on the chainsaw and I'm gonna go work out. So I actually like industrial seed oils like canola oil. I tell people to never eat them if possible. I actually don't have that rule with sugar. I would say never eat sugar if you're a diabetic, but other than that, like, you could have a little bit of sugar. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So look, you've got 7 grams of fat, you got 25 grams of carbs. Remember, just do the real rough math. How many, like, if you look at both of these grams, you don't even have to know how many calories there are, even though it's listed here. But from a calorie standpoint, are fats and carbs here, are they equal? Are they about the same? Are there more carbs? Are there more fats?
More carbs.
Yeah, there's more carbs because roughly, remember, fats are twice as calorically dense. So I just do the numbers. I just do like 14, and it's like that number. The carb number is bigger. Does that make sense why I do that? I just pull fat and see if it's about the same. If something had 20 grams of carbs and 10 grams of fat, then it's approximately, in 1 gram of protein, it's approximately 50-50 with a little bit of protein. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
The math there? You don't need to know the math. You just kind of need to ballpark it. Okay, so let's look at this. This is Bluebell ice cream. This was still at Aldi. I was just kind of going around looking around. Why is Bluebell ice cream kind of crappy for you? Look at this nutrition label. And this is just one serving here of 11 grams of fat, 23 grams of carbs. Look at this whole pint. Y'all see this 620 calories?
Mhm.
620 calories, 34 grams of fat, and 69 grams of carbs with just 13 grams of protein. So y'all see where this pie chart, why I'm telling you to look at this pie chart. Y'all see where that's going, right? And get Bluebell ice cream. What percentage is Bluebell? Ignore protein, just pretend it's not there. What percentage of Bluebell is fat and what percentage is it carb?
Carb is twice as much as fat.
Ah, okay. Anybody else got another thought?
It's 50-50.
Yeah, it's 50. Because remember from a calorie standpoint, Cindy Lou, fat is twice as dense as carb. So,
Well, I was doing the 210 one. Where it was-
it's the same ratio though. So 11 to 23. So that if you remember, twice as many calories in fats. So carbs, it's 50-50 from a calorie standpoint. Let's go back
Okay.
to this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm never good at math, you know.
It's basically to figure out the percentage, you would do 9 times the fat number and 4 times the carb number. But you could basically see that this ice cream and this mint striped fudge cookie is pretty much the same from a food composition standpoint. They're both extremely calorically dense. They got a lot of sugar in it. They got a lot of crummy fats. And I don't care if it's lemon cake or potato chips or ice cream or cookies. It's all the same. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You don't need to be an expert, but it is kind of helpful to look at it. It's pretty much all the same. Now, the reason why I do want you to kind of look at these labels is because one of the good news thing that's happening recently is you can find a really good substitution for almost anything now. Even 5 years ago, it's gotten better in the last 5 years. So you can find Halo Top at Kroger. This is the knockoff version at Aldi. So this is right next to the Bluebell. It's actually like one freezer over. But look at the macronutrients on this. A whole pint of this is less than half the calories of Bluebell. It's 8 grams of fat. It's 52 grams of carbs, but it's 14 fiber. And so it's only 16 grams of sugar. There's 24 grams of protein. It's almost a protein shake.
I was just going to say that.
No.
Let it melt and it's a protein shake.
Yeah. No, usually, your protein shake is 24 grams of protein, almost nothing else. But so you can find, if you know how to read the food labels, you can find a pretty darn good substitute for almost anything. The other thing that I found was I meant to take a picture of it. I actually went in the kind of crap food section and I got those like sticks with like chocolate in them, the Pirelli or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like 2 grams of fat and like 15 grams of carbs, and it's like 5 grams of sugar. And so like I have like 2 of those sticks, like probably twice a week, where I do like a little kind of cookie snack after dinner. And the point is, I'm not going to eat the fudge cookies, but I can find something that tastes almost just as good, and it's twice as good for me. Does that make sense? Like it's half. If you're eating pretty good most of the time, and then occasionally you're just throwing on 2 fudge cookies, it's gonna be hard to do well. But if you can find something that's kind of midway, you can have a lot more freedom with that and not have to worry about your food all the time. Does this seem like, if understanding this, does this seem like it can help you have more food freedom?
Yes.
I hope so. It's allowed me to have more food freedom. So I know I'm kind of getting into some of the weeds here. It's a little bit kind of like technical, but the takeaway is all the crap foods are the same. You can substitute and find some things that are a little bit better, and you can still do the fun stuff without having to kind of go crazy. So here are my kind of like very, very practical things for if you're going to potlucks, if you're just trying to get a little bit more control over your food, if you're going to a wedding, or if you're eating a cake at a, something, whatever. You can use a little bit less. So it really is pretty easy. If you're someone who's consistently going over on your fats, or if I've asked you, like if you're an Andy and I've asked you to kind of bump your fats down for a little bit, Carol's in a similar position. I bump my fats down a little bit personally. I've found that if I just use a little bit less, a little bit smaller portion size, it really does, like, it'll make a big difference at the end of the week, at the end of the day. So just knowing that it will make a difference will help you. Like if I just use half a tablespoon of mayo rather than a full tablespoon, I save 7 or 8 grams of fat right there. If you're at a restaurant, ordering dressings or sauces on the side is great, especially if you're at a restaurant. They're going to drown that fish in a butter sauce. You can just ask for the sauce on the side. You can probably eat half the sauce. It still tastes just as good, and your tummy isn't as bloated after. Seem reasonable? Not that crazy?
Makes sense.
What's that, Andy?
Does it make sense?
Yeah, just simple adjustments like this. You need to know that they actually will make a difference in the long run, or else you won't stick with them. But if you make a couple of those small adjustments and actually track it, you'll see that they are making a difference. I do recommend going fried or sauteed. Obviously, fried is going to come with a lot of extra kind of baggage. Sauteed will too. It's really easy for them. If you're getting zucchini at like what's the restaurant? It's like Chipotle, but it's Mexican, like Panda Express. If you're getting zucchini at Panda Express, they're going to saute the zucchini in a pan, and they're going to douse a bunch of canola oil over it. So if you can ever grill your food, that's always a pretty good option. And the other thing is, when I say macro-friendly options here, I'm talking about things like this ice cream. You can almost always find a lower sugar, reasonable fat alternative to the really indulgent kind of crummy food, especially in the last 5 years. So now, chocolate milk used to just be a bunch of fat and sugar, but now what do we have? Y'all know what I'm talking about? If you've been to Costco, you know what I'm talking about. What do we have that's better than chocolate milk that sort of is chocolate milk?
Fairlife.
Yeah, exactly. I bought one today. I meant to take a picture of that too. You don't have to just do chocolate milk and feel bad about it. Just buy the Fairlife. I don't think Fairlife is a health food, but I think it's a lot better. And then
It is good.
it is so good. I mean, shoot, it might as well be a health food. I think
And everybody knows that the Premier protein shake was recalled, right?
No, why?
I can't remember what bacteria is in it, but it's been recalled.
Oh, a recall is so bad for business. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll struggle with that for 3 years. Chipotle still struggles for that salmonella outbreak a couple of years ago.
So is that Fairlife milk, is that decent for a protein shake, or is there too much sugar or too much?
I would say like, it's a treat. I would say it's a treat.
Oh, it's a treat. Okay. Not an
But-
everyday thing.
Yeah, but it's a treat that, okay, so there's a little bit of nuance. I hate to do this to y'all. I feel really bad about this. I have a budget that I can kind of do one every day. I don't, but I could. Just because I'm eating a lot of food and I'm lifting really hard, your budget's a little bit less than mine. But it is a treat. You could probably do half of one, most nights, and you could probably do that. But if you actually look on, I think the whole thing was like 8 grams of fat, 22 grams of carbs, and 24 grams of protein. So it's pretty much like, it's well in line with this, where I recommend you just slightly dial up the protein composition of your diet. It's in line with that. So
Okay.
I just don't know. Like, I honestly don't think anybody really knows, is milk like that bad for you, or is it, I just think, it's something to be kind of, not evidence that it's really bad for you, but absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one other thing, I'm going to post this in the chat because I really want everybody to have this. Jackie, if you're still on, I think this would be really helpful for you. This is a food guide for like chain restaurants if you're on a road trip. I really want everybody to have this. I had a client eat some McDonald's recently, and I was like, oh man, like, you've got so many good options now. This is a whole list of like Subway, Steak and Shake, Dunkin' Donuts, Chili's. You have a good option everywhere you go now. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you really do. You've got a good option. Even at IHOP, you can do good at IHOP now.
Wow.
Used to, people would say, oh, like, the family took me to Cheddar's. You can do good at Cheddar's now, which is great. Okay, last thing that I want to show. Okay, if you're tracking, I want you to pre-build a crap food. Okay. My chronometer like just deleted mine, but I can show you how I do it. I guess it didn't just delete it, but I just noticed it. So you pre-build a crap food and plug it in as a placeholder anytime you're eating out. In other words, I don't care if you're eating ice cream or frozen yogurt. Ice cream and frozen yogurt are the same thing from a macronutrient standpoint, how they're going to affect your body. I don't care if you're eating chicken enchiladas at a Mexican restaurant or Italian pasta at dinner. Like, it's all going to be pretty much the same thing. And so I'll show you how I build mine. Basically, you're going to pre-log a crap food. You'll look and see if the calories are posted at the restaurant or where you're eating, and then increase whatever it says by about 20%. So if it says, hey, this meal is 1,000 calories and you eat the whole thing, you really probably just ate 1,200 calories or more. They're allowed to slightly underestimate what they post. They're allowed to be within 20% error. So they always go 20% lower than what it actually is. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So Chipotle will say our burrito is 750 calories. It's really probably closer to like 1,100, especially if you're like me and you get big portions. Now, again, the solution isn't always to undereat, and you're not eating less forever. Like a lot of you, I have eating more food. But just when you're eating at Taco Bell, it's really easy to eat 3,000 calories without even knowing it before you sneeze. So look for the calories posted, or just estimate the calories. Okay to do that, and then increase by what you think by 20% or 50%. And then just log your crap food. So let me show you this. So I could go to chronometer, and y'all can just do this exact same thing. But I just want y'all to see what I'm doing here. So we're gonna say this recipe is crap food, and this is just a placeholder for any, whether it's pizza or Mexican. This is gonna be probably more accurate than actually going through and trying to find pizza, in your thing. And I'm gonna say this is a placeholder. And I'm going to do it servings based, and I'll show you why in a second. And we're going to add an ingredient. The first thing I'm going to add is canola oil. And I'm going to do grams. I'm going to do it in 10 grams. And then I'm going to add sugar. Do y'all see what I'm doing here? Does this make sense? Y'all see where I'm going with this?
Yep.
So Andy, if you do kind of want to track food while you're out, you can use this. If you're going to take a tracking break, that's fine. This is what I would do. So 10 grams of canola oil, 10 grams of sugar, and I'm going to do whey protein. I'm gonna do in grams. I'm gonna do 2. 1.5. Do 1.5. Okay. And then I'm gonna save this food. Oop. And if I go to a diary on like unused day, so I go here and I'm gonna do crap food and say I look at say I'm at a an Italian restaurant and I just got pizza and it says the pizza is 700 calories. I'm gonna go ahead and do 9 servings. So 7, I'm gonna add 20%. I'm gonna do 9 servings there. And actually that went a little bit high. So 700 calories. I'll just play with the numbers until I get about where I go, because the ratio is correct. And oh, actually, sorry, I did 10 grams of sugar. I should have done 20 grams of sugar for those to be the same. And then the ratio will be the same. I just had a brain fart. That mistake.
Well, can you edit that food you make, or do you have to start over with make a new food?
If I were you, especially if you're in My Fitness Pal, just make a new food. And every time you eat a crap food like that, just throw that in. If that's the way you're tracking. I think that's the simplest, easiest way to kind of do that.
So Andrew, go back to the serving size. That got me confused. Do you put 1 in and then you change it as time goes by?
I'm just putting it into like a small number that I can estimate the calorie count. So I just did it in like 10 grams of canola oil, 20 grams of sugar, and then 1.5 grams of protein. And then, and so then if I know the calories or if I'm estimating the calories, so I can just say, hey, Chipotle said, or Chipotle actually is probably not, I wouldn't consider Chipotle a crap food, but if I'm going to have ice cream at the end of dinner, and it says, hey, the ice cream is 400 calories, right? Does that make sense? I would just put this until I get about 500 calories. So it might be 2.5.
Okay, I got you.
And then call it a day. It's an
Yeah.
estimate. But I don't know if it's ice cream or frozen yogurt, because I had a guy telling me, well, I was gonna log the frozen yogurt, but I couldn't find it. I was like, hey, don't worry. Like, you know what the food is, right? So this just demonstrates that you are a competent, educated consumer. You know what your food is. You know that it's gonna be more than you think. Just throw it in there and you're gonna be pretty close. So that's kind of one. And then you can just see how it kind of fills out your numbers. And it's an estimate, but it's an estimate that is kind of helpful for you from a learning standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep, it does.
Thank you.
All right. That's like a new protocol that I've recently